How's your prayer life going? It's a question that makes a lot of Christians squirm. I know because I've asked it and I've seen people's reaction when you ask that question. I've also been asked it myself at times. Welcome to Midweek 5. Last week I began a little series on prayer. It's as much for me as for you, just to help me improve my own prayer life. Prayer is one of those things that's really easy to talk about and write about, but it's a lot harder to put into practice. So we're going back to basics and looking at the Lord's Prayer from Luke. I talked last week about asking God for his help, just like the disciples did. I wonder, have you prayed that prayer this week? God, I need your help with prayer. That's the starting point, acknowledging our own poverty. I've sometimes found that actually doing that, both acknowledging it to myself and to God and sometimes to a trusted friend, is actually just enough to help me get going. Now, most of us will know the beginning of the Lord's Prayer, Our Father. And so I wanted to focus on the beginning. But then I checked the text and to my horror discovered that Luke actually just starts with Father. He misses out the word our. And that's the word I wanted to talk about. In a sense, the word our is not essential. But despite it not being in Luke's text, today I want to talk about this word our. Because when you think about it, it's a really odd word to start a prayer with. Our. I mean, aside from this prayer, when have you ever started praying using the word our? You might say, dear God, or just God, or I, but not our. What does this word our show us? Why start a prayer with this word? Well, if you think about it, our is a plural word. I mean, I could say my God, or our God. That's not wrong to say my God. Jesus prayed that on the cross. He said, my God, why have you forsaken me? And I want to make clear that the Lord's Prayer is not a formula, it's a guide. It can be repeated just as it is, but when we tend to say something rote over and over, we can end up not thinking about the words and losing it sort of really coming from the heart. The word our reminds us, I'm part of the family of God. I'm not alone. Often in times of need, we feel like we're the only one. I'm the only one going through this temptation. I'm the only one to be in such a mess. And need can make us quite self-centered. But we're not alone. There are members of my spiritual family around me who have faced similar things. Members of my spiritual family who can support me if I'm willing to be vulnerable to them. When I remember I'm part of the family of God, it reminds me of my Christian brothers and sisters who are being persecuted for their faith around the world. That might put my prayer in perspective, but as I selfishly demand that God act on my behalf. When I remember I'm part of the family of God, it reminds me I'm not alone. Because you see, the reality is that most answers to prayer don't come out of the sky or sort of supernaturally, but they come through our brothers and sisters. Now, sure, sometimes God does something really miraculous, but often, say, his encouragement comes through a kind word from someone or a card that lifts you up. Most often, God doesn't drop a practical resource out of the sky. It comes through a person who's generous. Sometimes God tells me things directly, but often the right path or the way forward comes as someone shares a piece of wisdom and you think, yeah, that's it. That's the right way. Sometimes we miss God's answers to prayer because they seem so ordinary. They come through ordinary people. I remember years and years ago once praying about something really practical I wanted God's help for. And literally within minutes, a person who was not a Christian offered to help. But I was too proud to accept their help. And I said, no, I'm fine. When just minutes earlier, I'd actually asked for God's help. The hour also reminds me I can be an answer to other people's prayer. Am I open to being used by God today for his purposes? That's incredibly exciting to think, actually, I can be an answer to someone else's prayer. That can be you. Next week, we're going to talk about the word Father. But you put the two words together, it's a really powerful combination. Our Father. Because we're part of the family of God, a worldwide family. You have brothers and sisters around the world. Just imagine for a minute you were dropped into Uganda. You didn't know anyone and you needed some help. The reality is there'd be Ugandan brothers and sisters in Christ who did not know you who would help. Amazing. And we are intimately linked to the God of the universe. So the word our is a powerful thought. Even if Luke left it out in his version, it's worth remembering. You are not alone.